The Mandela effect is a psychological phenomenon where large groups of people collectively remember an event or detail differently than how it is documented in reality. It is not a supernatural event. Instead, it is a byproduct of how our brain encodes, stores, and retrieves information. Rather than a glitch in the universe, it is a case study in cognitive psychology, demonstrating how memory can be reconstructed over time. Confabulation is the brain's attempt to maintain a cohesive narrative by filling memory gaps with plausible, though incorrect, information. Source monitoring errors occur when the brain fails to identify the origin of a memory. We struggle to distinguish if an event was a real experience or merely something we dreamed, imagined, or heard from a story. When we recall an event, we perform a metadata check. Is this from the real world or from an internal source? Often, these tags become degraded over time. A source monitoring error happens when the brain tags an internal creation, like a dream, with the marker for an external, real event. The boundary between these two sources is porous. Information gained from hearing stories or viewing media can seep into our actual event container. By the time we retrieve the memory, the source tag is often lost or corrupted, leading us to believe we experienced something that actually originated in our imagination. Priming occurs when exposure to viral memes or repeated misinformation overwrites our original, vague memories with a more compelling narrative. When we see these incorrect references repeatedly online, our brain adopts them as a template or schema because they align with our aesthetic expectations. By constantly consuming information, our brain creates these priming loops, making it difficult to distinguish between reality and a digital fiction. Our brain organizes information into schemas, which are mental templates for simplifying reality. These templates help us categorize everything from people to events. If a logo or design consistently appears incorrectly in popular culture, our brain adopts that version to better match our existing expectations. The Berenstain Bears is perhaps the most famous example of the Mandela effect. Millions of people vividly recall the title being spelled with an E, Berenstain. However, documentation confirms the correct spelling uses an A, Berenstain. The widespread nature of this memory error is rooted in linguistics. Psychologists attribute this to a graphemic error. Because the suffix stein appears in countless famous surnames, our brains subconsciously correct the less common stain to fit a familiar pattern. This demonstrates how our memory reconstructs information based on linguistic probability rather than objective fact. The Shazam phenomenon is one of the most persistent examples of a phantom memory. Thousands of people distinctly recall a 90s movie where the comedian Sinbad plays a genie. In reality, this movie does not exist. The memory is a product of cognitive confabulation, where two separate experiences are merged by the brain. One experience is Sinbad appearing on television in the 90s wearing a genie-like costume. The other is the 1996 film Kazam, which actually starred Shaquille O'Neal as a genie. Because both events involved a tall 90s figure in a genie role, the brain creates a single, coherent, but false memory of a film called Shazam. This crossover memory demonstrates how our brain prioritizes narrative consistency over historical accuracy. The memory feels real because the components are based on actual, separate events. Many people believe memory functions like a video recording, capturing events exactly as they happened to be replayed later. But this is fundamentally incorrect. Memory is a reconstructive process. Every time you recall a memory, your brain retrieves fragments of information and reassembles them, often filling in gaps with new or different details. This makes every memory susceptible to change. Each time you access a memory, you are not opening a file, you are writing a new version of the story. The more you recall a memory, the more it shifts. Your brain is a storyteller, not a camera. In the 2010s, the Mandela effect was frequently explained by pop culture theorists as a sign of parallel dimensions or reality shifts. However, these multiverse theories have been entirely abandoned by the scientific community. Today, researchers recognize that memory is a reconstructive process, not an archival video recording. The phenomenon is firmly rooted in cognitive psychology and documented neurological biases. By shifting our focus from speculative fiction to objective science, we gain a deeper understanding of the fragility and fallibility of human memory. Generative AI has introduced a new, dangerous variable into our collective memory. It can produce high quality synthetic imagery that is indistinguishable from reality, yet entirely fabricated. When these AI generated images circulate on social media, they gain the appearance of legitimacy, effectively polluting our collective consciousness. Research shows that large language models and image generators have varying rates of hallucination. Even a small percentage of error creates a massive ripple effect across the digital landscape. This process creates a feedback loop. Humans encounter synthetic false memories, store them as actual history, and then AI models train on that false human data, cementing the error. The Mandela effect is no longer just a cognitive bias. It is now an algorithmic byproduct that requires new levels of media literacy to navigate. Digital natives, specifically Generation Z and Alpha, exhibit higher vulnerability to the Mandela effect. This is tied to how they store and perceive reality. Their memories are frequently externalized through cloud storage and social feeds. Because these media are constantly edited and repurposed, they lack the permanence of physical archives. Data shows tens of millions of digital natives interacting with these mutable platforms daily, increasing the potential for collective memory errors. Algorithmic gaslighting occurs when AI-driven feeds curate content so intensely that the user becomes trapped in an echo chamber of their own perceived reality. This erodes the collective foundation of shared truth. Misinformation loops on social media create a feedback mechanism where an incorrect detail is repeated until it is treated as a historical fact. When encountering a post, users decide whether to be skeptical or take information at face value. Taking information at face value fuels the loop. Visual misinformation, like edited images, often gets a false stamp of authority. Repeated exposure causes the brain to adopt these details as schema. The loop persists through repetition. As more people share the content, the false detail is normalized, cementing it as a shared reality. This algorithmic gaslighting transforms subjective misinformation into an objective truth for the collective memory. The Mandela effect is no longer just a digital curiosity. Educators are now using this phenomenon as a powerful tool to teach media literacy. By examining these collective false memories, students learn how easily the human mind can be influenced by persuasive digital narratives. Schools use these case studies to demonstrate the fallibility of memory. When students see how a viral image or a false claim can overwrite objective facts, they become more skeptical of the content they consume online. This training prepares students to verify sources, cross-reference data, and recognize the patterns of misinformation. It is a vital defense against manipulation in the digital age. Our memories are reconstructed, not recorded. This fallibility makes us vulnerable to the Mandela effect. To counter this, we must adopt critical thinking habits. Ask yourself, is this a fact I have verified through primary sources, or is it a feeling I gathered from internet echo chambers? Every digital interaction should trigger a pause. The most shared information is often the most emotionally charged, not the most accurate. Build your own toolkit. Pause before believing, trace the source of the claim, and verify against historical records. This is your first step in reclaiming reality. As we face an era where digital memories are easily altered, we need a way to preserve objective reality. Enter blockchain anchoring. Blockchain anchoring creates an immutable link. By storing a hash of a document on a decentralized ledger, we ensure the original state is verifiable forever. This mechanism uses digital signatures and cryptographic hashes. Even if external information changes, the blockchain anchor serves as the ultimate source of truth. In the digital age, false claims can go viral in seconds, embedding themselves into the collective memory before they can be verified. We need robust infrastructure. This starts with media literacy, a framework to systematically verify every piece of information we encounter. Beyond individual vigilance, we need technical solutions like blockchain anchoring. By creating an immutable cryptographic hash of original documents, we can verify authenticity instantly. A strong fact-checking infrastructure is our best defense against the erosion of shared reality. It protects our collective memory by ensuring objective truth remains accessible to everyone. From a cognitive psychology perspective, the Mandela effect is essentially a natural byproduct of how human brains operate. It is a flaw in our biological hardware, not a glitch in reality. Our brains organize information into schemas. Every time we retrieve a memory, we are not playing back a video, but rather retelling a story that can be altered by current context, bias, or social input. Memory is prone to errors during encoding and retrieval. When we share these reconstructions with others, social validation can cement these false details into our collective history, creating the phenomenon we know today. Objective reality is the bedrock of any functioning society. While subjective views define our personal experiences, it is our shared objective facts that allow us to cooperate effectively. When we lose track of objective truth, the mechanisms for collective decision making, like policies and scientific progress, become impossible to sustain because there is no common ground. Objective facts act as the anchor for our discussions. Just as puzzle pieces must fit a specific shape to form a whole, our shared reality is the only way we can successfully complete complex societal tasks. To maintain a clear grasp on objective reality, we must practice active vigilance. Your memory is not a perfect recording. It is a story that changes every time you access it. Always cross-reference your memories with primary, authenticated sources. Do not rely on social media posts or pop culture consensus, which are often sources of collective misinformation. By anchoring your understanding in immutable records, you can separate your personal history from the viral loops of digital misinformation. Memory is not a video recording. It is a reconstructive process where the brain actively rewrites the story every time it is accessed. Our collective memory is heavily influenced by social validation, AI-generated content, and viral misinformation loops. As we navigate 2026, staying vigilant is essential. Use critical thinking to anchor your knowledge in verifiable reality.